You ever walk into a room and realize your body's there, but you're not? Your mind's replaying the past, worrying about the future, and you're missing the only thing that's real this moment. We spend our lives everywhere but here, and then we wonder why peace feels impossible. Most of us live everywhere except in the present moment. Our minds are constantly sprinting, reliving old mistakes, worrying about what comes next, replaying conversations we can't change. We're physically here, but mentally scattered across timelines that no longer exist or haven't even happened yet. That's why so many people feel exhausted, anxious, or disconnected, because they're living in 1,000 different places, but never in the one that matters most now. Being where your feet are means anchoring yourself in this very moment, because this is the only moment that's real. Think about it. You can't breathe yesterday's air, and you can't take tomorrow's breath. The only time you can live, act, speak, and choose is this one. Yet we keep postponing our presence, promising ourselves we'll be happy after we achieve something, after things calm down, after we're ready. But life doesn't wait for perfect timing. It happens right now, in the middle of the chaos, the noise, the imperfection. Being mindful means showing up for that moment, fully aware, even when it's messy. When you learn to be where your feet are, you stop letting life slip through your fingers. You start noticing the details, the sound of your own breath, the way sunlight hits the floor, the tone of someone's voice when they say your name. You stop running on autopilot and start living deliberately. And that's where strength begins. Because when you are fully present, you respond from clarity, not habit. You choose instead of react. You lead yourself instead of being led by fear or distraction. Being present doesn't mean you ignore your past or forget about the future. It means you stop living in them. You take the lessons from the past, plan wisely for the future, but live here. In the moment you can actually influence. Mindfulness is not about control, it's about connection. It's about connecting to yourself, your environment, and the people around you. It's about realizing that every breath is an opportunity to reset, to begin again. But here's the challenge. Being present is uncomfortable. Stillness exposes things we've been avoiding. The quiet makes you face thoughts you've buried. And that's why most people run from it. But that discomfort is where transformation lies. When you stop escaping the moment, you finally get to know yourself, not the version the world sees, but the one who exists underneath the noise. That's where authenticity, focus, and real power are born. So how do you do it? Start small. When you wake up, feel your breath before you grab your phone. When you eat, actually taste your food instead of rushing through it. When someone speaks to you, listen without preparing your reply. It's simple, but it's not easy. Because it takes discipline to stay grounded in a world designed to distract you. Yet, every time you return to the present, you reclaim your power. Being where your feet are means you stop waiting to live. You stop chasing what's next and start appreciating what's now. Because this moment, right here, right now, is the only one guaranteed. Everything else is just noise. The power you're looking for, the peace you're chasing, the clarity you crave, it's not somewhere out there. It's already here, waiting for you to finally arrive. Stillness is often misunderstood. In a world that glorifies business, being still can look like laziness or weakness. We're taught to hustle, to move fast, to always be doing something, because stopping means you're falling behind. But here's the truth. Stillness is not the absence of action. It's the presence of control. It's strength. It's choosing to pause when everything in you wants to react. It's being calm in the middle of chaos and focused when everyone else is losing direction. Real power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. When life throws pressure your way, your instincts scream to fight or flee. You want to say something, do something, fix something. immediately. But mindfulness teaches you something deeper. The pause is power. That pause between the chaos and your reaction is where discipline lives. It's where emotional intelligence takes the lead. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting from awareness instead of impulse. It's not freezing, it's choosing. When you train yourself to be still, you gain the space to think clearly and respond wisely instead of being ruled by your emotions. People often think being mindful means stepping away from the world, but it's the opposite. It's being fully engaged in the world without letting it control you. When you are still, your mind stops being your enemy and becomes your ally. You can see situations for what they really are, not what your stress or anger tries to make them. You stop overreacting to noise and start moving with intention. The more stillness you cultivate, the stronger your presence becomes. You walk into a room and people feel that energy, calm, focused, centered, because real strength doesn't shout, it radiates. Stillness is also about emotional control. Anyone can look strong when things are easy, but mindfulness shows its true power when everything starts to fall apart. When you can breathe through the pressure, think through the fear, and act with integrity while the world tests you, that's mastery. That's strength, because calm is contagious. When you can stay grounded, you influence everything around you. You become the person others turn to in uncertainty. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have composure. We often chase control over external things, success, people, outcomes, but mindfulness shifts that focus inward. It reminds you that the only control you ever truly have is over yourself, your breath, your thoughts, your reactions. When you master that, nothing outside you can break you. Stillness doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. It's not weakness to pause before responding, to breathe before reacting, to step back before deciding. That's not hesitation, that's wisdom. So when life gets loud, when emotions rise, when pressure builds, don't run, don't react. Be still. Listen, breathe. That silence you create in yourself isn't empty. It's full of awareness, full of strength. In that silence, you find clarity. And from clarity comes power, the kind of power that no noise, no chaos, no person can ever take away from you. Every moment presents you with a choice to react or to respond. The difference between the two may seem small, but it's the difference between chaos and control, between regret and wisdom. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. Something happens, and before they've even processed it, they lash out, defend themselves, or spiral emotionally. They let the moment control them instead of commanding it. But mindfulness teaches you that between what happens and what you do about it, there's a gap, a sacred pause. And in that pause lies your power. The pause is not weakness, it's mastery. It's that split second where awareness steps in and emotion steps back. It's where you choose your response instead of letting the situation choose it for you. Think about it. How many times have you said something in anger and wished you could take it back? How often have you made a decision out of fear only to regret it later? Those are reactions. They come from impulse, not intention. But when you pause, even for a breath, you shift from being controlled by the moment to controlling the moment. You stop letting your emotions drive the car and start taking the wheel yourself. Mindfulness isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about understanding it. When you pause, you give yourself the chance to feel without being consumed by feeling. You allow your mind to catch up with your heart. That's what separates strength from instability. Anyone can explode when triggered. That's easy. But it takes real power to pause, breathe, and act with purpose. The pause is where patience, discipline, and self-respect live. It's where you stop being reactive and start being intentional. When you learn to pause before reacting, your relationships change. You start listening instead of just waiting to respond. You begin to hear not just what people say, but what they mean. You become less defensive and more aware. That awareness brings compassion, not because you're soft, but because you're clear. You stop taking everything personally. You see the difference between someone else's pain and your own peace. You stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. That's the kind of control mindfulness gives you. Quiet, steady, unshakable. The pause also gives you the ability to respond with strength instead of force. Reaction is impulsive, response is intelligent. One is driven by ego, the other by awareness. When you act from awareness, you're not trying to win. You're trying to understand. You're not trying to dominate, you're trying to grow. And that's what separates people who live in chaos from those who move with calm. Every time you choose to pause, you're building mental resilience. You're training yourself to stay steady when life pushes hard. The pause doesn't make you slow, it makes you strategic. It doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. So the next time you feel that surge, that heat rising in your chest, that urge to react, stop. Take a breath. That single breath could be the difference between damage and growth, between confusion and clarity. Because in that moment, you're not just controlling your reaction, you're reclaiming your power. And that's where true strength begins. Awareness is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop, yet it's the one most people overlook. We move through life on autopilot, reacting, repeating, and wondering why we keep ending up in the same places. Awareness changes that. It's the light that reveals what's really happening inside you and around you. Without it, you can't change, you can't grow, and you can't lead. You can't fight what you refuse to face. Mindfulness builds awareness, and awareness builds resilience, the ability to stay steady when everything around you is shaking. Resilience doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from being honest about what isn't. Awareness gives you that honesty. It forces you to look at your patterns, how you think, how you react, how you cope. It makes you notice the moments when you shrink from fear or lash out in defense. It shows your triggers, your weaknesses, your strengths. That kind of self-understanding is uncomfortable, but it's necessary because when you know yourself deeply, you stop being blindsided by your emotions. You can anticipate them, manage them, and make choices that serve you instead of sabotage you. Most people think resilience means never breaking. That's wrong. Real resilience means breaking and rebuilding smarter. It means falling but knowing how to rise. Awareness is what teaches you how to rise. When you're mindful, you start to recognize that challenges aren't personal attacks. They're teachers. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this trying to show me? That shift in perspective turns pain into wisdom and failure into fuel. You stop wasting energy resisting what is and start using it to move forward. Awareness also gives you emotional stability. When you can identify what you're feeling, anger, fear, disappointment, you stop being controlled by those feelings. You realize that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. You can experience them without drowning in them. That's resilience, the ability to stay centered while the storm passes. You might bend, but you don't break. You might hurt, but you don't lose yourself in the hurt. Mindfulness trains your awareness the same way exercise trains your body. Every time you pause to notice your breath, every time you catch yourself before reacting, every time you choose clarity over chaos, you strengthen your inner endurance. You build a kind of calm that isn't dependent on circumstances. That calm is what allows you to lead with strength, love, and integrity even when life tests you. Awareness isn't about control, it's about understanding. When you understand yourself, you start to understand others. You become more patient, more compassionate, more adaptable. You stop judging and start observing. That shift creates space to breathe, to think, to act wisely. Resilience built through awareness isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's the kind of strength that shows up consistently in the way you carry yourself, in the way you handle pressure, in the way you choose peace when anger would be easier. Awareness doesn't remove the storm, but it teaches you how to stand tall in the rain. That's mindfulness in action: clear mind, steady heart, unshakable spirit. Peace isn't something you stumble upon one day when life finally slows down. It's not a prize waiting at the end of your struggles. Peace is something you build, moment by moment, breath by breath, through the way you choose to live. Most people think peace means having no problems, no stress, no noise. But that's not peace. That's avoidance. Real peace exists within the noise. It's the ability to stay grounded even while the world spins around you. It's choosing calm when everything else is screaming for chaos. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through mindfulness, through being deliberate about what you allow to control you and what you let go of. You don't find peace by waiting for everything to go right. You create it by how you respond when things go wrong. It's easy to feel calm when life is kind, but real peace shows up when you're tested, when plans fall apart, when people disappoint you, when fear creeps in. Mindfulness is the discipline of returning to yourself in those moments, of reminding yourself that no situation, no person, and no emotion gets to define your peace unless you allow it. You learn to pause, breathe, and respond from strength instead of panic. Creating peace is an internal process. It's not about controlling your environment. It's about mastering your inner environment. The world will always have noise, deadlines, expectations, uncertainty. But mindfulness teaches you to separate what's happening outside from what's happening within. You can be surrounded by conflict and still stay calm because your peace doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on awareness. The moment you stop trying to fix everything around you and start managing what's inside you, you begin to experience real freedom. Peace also requires letting go of control, of grudges, of the need to be right all the time. The more you hold on to what you can't change, the heavier life feels. Mindfulness teaches you to loosen that grip. You start noticing when your thoughts spiral, when your emotions tighten, and you learn to release them instead of resisting them. That release is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that peace doesn't come from having less to deal with. It comes from having the strength to deal with it differently. When you create peace within yourself, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. Your calm becomes contagious. You walk into a room and people feel it. You handle challenges with quiet confidence. You stop matching other people's chaos and start setting the tone with your own energy. That's what mindfulness gives you: emotional leadership. You stop reacting to life and start influencing it. Peace is not passive. It's powerful. It's not something that appears when everything's perfect. It's something you practice when things are not. Every mindful breath you take, every moment you choose understanding over judgment, every time you choose to stay present instead of panicking, you are creating peace. You're building it from the inside out. And once that peace lives within you, no storm can take it away, because you've learned that calm is not something you find. It's something you become.